Uh, hello, 404 error. Not too much. Started late because I was having a lazy Sunday bit. And I'm planning on just doing a still today. Maybe I'll do some figures because it's been a sec since I've done some figures in a space. And then go from there. The comments stay on. It just makes for a better, more connected process. If you want to watch something without the comments interrupting the visual, then you can watch it on YouTube, because I record the feed that's going out to the live stream, and you can also control a little bit there. So sorry, Chevy, love Kane, but just for the interactive element, the appeal of actually having the live stream, I leave the comments on. Okay, so today is just going to be probably some figures drawing around and then filling those in. So first gonna sharpen this pencil and see, generally it'll probably end up keeping about this sort of. I'm gonna get it a little bit tighter on this so you can see just a bit more. Alright. Hello, error. There's multiple people with error 404 in their name. Okay. Thanks, Oh Hey Moon. Just so you know, today is still. If you want to watch other process things, you can check that out on YouTube and watch animations and things like that. But as far as what's happening today, it's just going to be some figures. Hello, Lavstra. Hello, Guy. See that? Okay. Thank you, error404.exec. Seems like a bad file name. If you were actually trying to either have someone forced into an error or to have just a file name. Okay, I can connect. Hello, Thomas. Hello, Niklopstuck. Sketch okay. Sketching loud. You get to hear a lot of noise in this. Thank you. I should just say thank you. I do sketch good. This is to get more than anything else, get the general positioning of stuff worked out. I don't know how I'm feeling about this. You ever get stressed by people watching? Yeah, I can stop if I'm stressed by it. I have a sense of control still, so it's not so much an issue. It's more just if I get stressed by the fact that I can't think of what to draw or something like that. What I might actually end up doing is cutting this off. Where did I put? There it is. And making this oriented vertical. I don't like the cropping of this if I continue in this direction. I want it to be longer in the direction that the figures are currently. It's awkward. Things sort of continue in that direction. That's a better bit. And this more exaggerated as a curved arm. Cut in even closer. saying stuff? Not really. Cool. All right. Okay, let's do some tracing paper bit. I should have some around. On the ground. Yep. I believe this is the 9x11 stuff. Yep, okay. So let's take this down. Need to get back in the habit of reminding people that I'm going live. I've been slacking on that. What if I might try this two ways. I might try this first with brush and ink because that's where I'm most comfortable, and then try doing these figures with a repeated graph pen. See how it goes. Might be good, might be bad. It's all in frame, so we're good. Okay. I'll refine some of these outlines and shapes a bit as I go along. Or what if I do this? I don't know if it'll be the best. Let me test it out. See how well I do or don't work using my microscope while doing this. Got it. Okay. This has a long USB cord to it. Alright. See if it's still in business. Seems like we're good. But I will need to adjust the positioning of this so that you can see it pretty clearly. Okay, I am recording. Thank you, Leversoy. Let's see how well I can manage this. I might need to turn this down. A little bit more slack here. Hello, Talaltham? Hello, Arthur. Let's try just working my way across. like slabs, draws. Hello, Brad. How did I develop my own unique drawing style? Looking at existing ones, seeing what I liked, seeing what worked for me, and adapting from there. That's a pretty broad description, but finding personal comfort is a big aspect. Drawn a bunch of stuff, that's helpful as well. Did I say hello to Brad? Hello, Brad. No harm if I say hello twice. Hopefully. It'd be weird if you were like just super mad if I said hello more than once. Not a problem in college. If like you're going to college, you're trying to figure stuff out. You shouldn't go into college knowing everything. If you do, then why are you in college? I didn't get this going, these sort of looks and stuff, until after I'd graduated. In college I was studying graphic design and I had some aesthetics, but most of what I had was just lazy sketching that I preferred the look of it because I like the texture of it. These sort of figures didn't come about until after I had graduated and spent some time doing some stuff. Pardon me if I'm a... Thank you, Brad. That's a nice thing to say. The question that I was answering before is, I don't have any particular drawing style. Would that be a problem at college and stuff? People don't have drawing styles like their entire careers or stuff. It depends what you're pursuing, what you want to do, as to whether or not you should have something that's specifically yours, or there are people who work entirely within the realm of like working for other folks, which is perfectly fine. Working as part of a larger team where having a distinctive style isn't necessarily advantageous, but being able to work with other people is much more advantageous. Really just sort of depends. You can find your niche. You might go to college and find out that you hate drawing. This is more of a career Not this specifically. This is more a means of promoting stuff, exploring, experimenting. I make some money off of selling shirts and such, but most of my money comes from doing projects for brands or stuff for social platforms. Which usually, if that's the case, then it's animation. Because something like a brand, if you're trying to get into advertising, there is a sense of voice, but thank you, Camilla. When it comes to advertising, a lot of what you're doing is not working in a space where you're trying to get the same message to every person, and it's less about self-expression as much as it is creating a sense of want in the person who's viewing something or having an emotional connection. You're not sure about what you want to do yet, maybe graphic art or comic writing or architecture. You're going to college next fall. That's an exciting time. Hopefully things will be in a better state of the world as far as your ability to attend in person if that's what you'd like to do. That's got to be a frustrating thing, being a bit younger, like starting to go to college, where you thought it was going to be sort of like your first real experience of independence, and then it gets taken out from underneath you. I don't know exactly the state of college campuses currently and what colleges have what. I don't know anybody who works in comic stuff. I know a lot of people who really love comic book stuff. My college had sequential art, and this isn't meant to be, hello Reno, this isn't meant to be a criticism of you or your sort of thing, but a lot of people who get into comic books have a love, like a deep love of comics, but don't have an awareness of the discipline that it takes to create the thing that they really love, and so they get discouraged when they aren't immediately allowed to publish their own graphic novel or something like that, which I think happens kind of frequently in creative fields, that people get excited and want to have complete ownership but don't have an understanding of the percentage of people who actually are, hello Elaine, the number of people who are actually allotted the opportunity in a professional sense to be the creative voice of a project. Like the number of people who get to direct a movie, it's pretty small, and there's a lot of politics and outside influence and things like that, and you can pursue it on your own. It takes a bit more work and a different sort of passion, and you have to invest in a different way. Is Uzumaki, is that the one about spirals? I've read only a few graphic novels, and the ones that or the one that I remember more than others is Blankets, and then also I forget, why am I drawing a blank on the name of the other one? It's about a man suffering from like early stage Alzheimer's and maybe some dementia, but was a hockey player. It's okay, the one about spirals. I have read that one. Someone gifted that to me at some point. Haven't revisited it in a while, but it gets referenced a lot. I enjoyed it. I like more when it comes to a lot of narrative-based things. I tend to like things that are pretty understated. So Blankets is pretty pretty understated. It's just about a young man's experience, and I related to it because it's someone who wants a manic pixie dream girl. It's pretty much what that sort of thing is, and that's a lot of what I wanted when I was younger, not understanding that really what I wanted was someone to be like, oh, you're so quiet, but you're interesting. I'm an interesting person, but I'm loud about it. And just, realizing that that's what a lot of people want, is they want to be recognized as being interesting. But it's a pretty understated graphic novel that's got no sort of unrealistic elements. It's not fictionalized, no fantastic elements. He also goes to a church camp thing, which I related to that sort of experience happening. I cannot remember the name of the other one. I think it's just over there. Blankets. Oh, I also read Black Hole. What's his name? Charles Burns. That one's interesting because it's fantastic, but also pretty understated, but grotesque. He has an interesting aesthetic about that. Essex County is the Canadian one that I was thinking about. It gives a different sort of voice and feeling to someone who might be suffering from issues of memory loss or sense of self, and what reality is and how you're relating to that in a narrative sense. It makes for a different feeling of flashbacks, things like that. Can't sustain this brush cam for a crazy amount of time because it's a little bit more awkward to hold. And I can feel my hand starting to sort of cramp up a little bit. But something of this time frame that's tracing over existing elements. It's just a still. I can manage that. It's also just a different sense of control that's harder to maintain. And there's a wire coming out. I haven't devoted a lot of time to exploring graphic novels, things like that. But in a lot of creative fields, there's a narrative that's sort of created where it implies that people are just newly discovered artists out of nowhere. But most of the time those people have been working for years, if not decades, before they get the opportunity to be showcased in that sort of broader sense of things. Or the idea that someone's a failure because they're on a sitcom after being in movies, and it's they're still making a lot of money and working regularly. It's just not on the same scope and scale as being one of 5. It's being one of 500. Where are they? Also, the idea that people no longer being in movies is a failure. It's you could just make lots of money and then have a calm, collected life. Depends on sort of who the person is and what their pursuits are. But yeah, if you're pursuing something like a career in graphic arts, just be prepared to put in the work and time if you want to achieve something that's like on the scope and scale that you assume you'll have. A lot of people assume they'll have access to being that sort of person. It's also something that a lot of the time, myself included, you think that you're ready for something before you are. And you have the confidence, or you might have the confidence to be like, I can do this so much better than that person. Look at my work, it's so much better. And that's good to have that confidence because it's a necessary driving factor. You have to have the sense that you're doing work much better than you are in order to stay motivated to keep on creating and learning. But I thought that stuff that I did earlier on in my creative career was better than what I think it is now. And hopefully I'll think that of the work that I'm creating now. In 5 years, in 1 year, in 10 years, I'll be like, this wasn't nearly as good as I thought, but that's only the hope, because otherwise I won't be progressing. I won't be making newer or better stuff. I'll just be stuck in the same bit. And that isn't a good way to live. What time is it? 3:45. Just gonna do maybe a couple of these figures out of curiosity using a technical pen. Also, I'm going to see if I want to have a belly button or not. I don't know. You can just look back and see most of what I think of as being better or worse art is where I did or didn't have the patience, or did or didn't notice different aspects of the process that at the time I ignored, but then later on realized that it's something that I just wasn't cognizant of. Just growing. It's hard to define better art if you're actually like trying to get at that more specifically. Yep, it's harder to define. Sometimes it's more emotionally vulnerable. I think the thing that I get most excited by is either like extreme refinement or true vulnerability, which I have not gotten there. But just like in the past, I might have, for these sorts of figures, I can give you a feedback or sort of response. Anything that I do say, take with a grain of salt. Don't take it as truth. Take it as a perspective other than your own. I like recording work because I really like process, because I like explaining things and understanding things better. Okay. Like in the past, I probably would have wouldn't have done these figures using ink, because to define the gaps of stuff, or to define the shapes, you have to have negative space in between, which means taking multiple steps, and that's not what I would have done in the past. I wouldn't have taken multiple steps and done it in that way. I just would have been like, here you go, there it is. Alright, let's see how these feel. Maybe I'll make them a bit more angular. I don't know. I haven't used this. And in a minute. I just was curious how they'd feel. Different line quality. Yeah, if you want to send your portfolio, you can direct message me. Is probably the fastest, easiest way to convey something. I could also, I don't know if I have any easy access to what I had like in high school. There were things that I still like from when I was in high school and stuff that I'm like, that was pretty lazy or less interesting than I thought it was at the time. But that also can just be a reflection of where you are as a person. If you would prefer to email, you can also email me. Sorry, Pacific Devil, I can't read Russian or anything in the Cyrillic alphabet. I can't even like begin to try and translate. I like having preservation and having an ability to revisit or look at things. Okay, well, if you prefer to email, you can. It's TraceLoops@traceloops.com. But DM is probably easiest since you already are on this platform here. Never gotten super comfortable without doing multiple lines of these sorts of stuff. I think I might just take one of these figures and try to do a bit of shading on it or something. Oh, 3 a.m. where you are? You're like on the other side of the world. I hope you get good sleep. If you want to watch other live streams, you can watch them on YouTube and see those bits. I know you can't interact with them, but yeah, hope you sleep well. Have a nice sleep. This is at this point just me testing out and trying some outlining using this technical pen. I am not familiar with Fernand Léger, but it'll come up. So he's got some figures and such. Just not familiar with Fernand Léger. Fernand Léger. I'm gonna say it Léger. I don't know. I know that you're French. I remember that much. Getting back on comic book people. I got excited a little bit when I watched the documentary for Crumb because he uses the same pins that I do. Watched that in college. R. Crumb, odd person. Messing around with some, it ends up looking kind of like dry point, which I've never really done, but I know that it's a thing. I made it sound more Frenchy. I can zoom in a sec. I just know that the camera is gonna not really pick up on the cross-hatching that clearly. Because it's a digital zoom. I'll come back in with that camera microscope deal in a minute and you can get a better visual of it. spent some time cross-hatching, but cross-hatching is something I didn't realize for a long time how much the direction informs an understanding of the form itself, or can be used to define the form. Also that when you're doing things that are simpler line, the line weight really depending on what cross-hatching is probably right, or depending on how you're applying the pattern, you might be doing stippling. But stippling is more like doing a bunch of dots. Always takes a while to build up that sort of texture, to really spend the time necessary. Anytime that I've done cross-hatching, I'm like, I think I'm done. And then I come back and work on it more. And then like an hour later, I'm like, I think maybe I'm done. And then another hour or so. And then I might start to be done. I don't really follow all that many folks on here. It's mostly people that I know. Or stuff that I've worked with in the past or something like that. I can check out your stuff. It's also just generally speaking, it can be mildly off-putting to have someone randomly demand something. But I can respect hustling on stuff. Not a great hustling sort of person. Thank you. Appreciate you saying nice stuff about stuff that I make. Oh, you love Tor art. I didn't even read it wrong. Or I didn't read it correctly, I should say. I read it incorrectly. Have you thought about making a Instagram filter? Maybe put trademark face on top of subject's face, Um, I've done a couple Instagram filters, but it's more playing with format. A lot of filters aren't exactly what I want. It's a weird balance of like a creator and the person messing with it, as far as a sense of ownership, as well as giving a tool that someone might not be personally capable or not think in that sort of manner. It's not too difficult. It used to be something of an invite-only sort of deal or something, or pending approval sort of stuff, but now I think it's generally open. Just might not be promoted, and it might take a minute to get acceptance, because there's, at least at the start of pandemic stuff, they sent out a thing that was like, we've got limited people that are reviewing things. But since Rena, you do programming stuff. If you've ever worked with visual programming language things, then you would probably find the Instagram filter stuff to be pretty easy. The Spark AR is the software, and it's free to use, and it's on both PC and Mac now. For a minute I think it was just on Mac, but it's surprisingly easy to use. Like, I thought that it was like going to be a lot more work to figure stuff out, but it's pretty robust with what it gives you with a limited number of tools. You can get more specific with how you're programming things and stuff like that, but like, I saw some people I know using it and creating like isolating figures from the background, and I was like, that looks like it's a lot of programming or a lot of difficult stuff, but it's just like, click it, it's doing it for you. It's like next to no programming to really get there. You have to like get a little bit of orientation to the program, but the actual programming is pretty easy. I haven't opened it in a while, so I'm not sure if it's changed at all as far as what the program is behaving like or anything like that, but it's much easier to do. Yeah, Spark AR is what that is. I don't know what they use for Snapchat, and I'm not sure how open the TikTok filter creation is, but Spark AR is pretty good. You can like, super easy to apply something like this sort of face onto a person, but it doesn't look great. Because part of how these guys work is that they're a bit more cartoonish, and if you're applying that directly onto someone's face, it doesn't work well if you're trying to make them able to express things, the user. What if it was just like tracking? The face tracking on it is super easy. You just drag and drop something on, and it's like, there, got it. I was anticipating more from when I tried to use a Raspberry Pi Zero with a camera to try and do face tracking, and it was like a bunch of different stuff, and I had to find programs that people had made and then like adjust them and build stuff out from there. And it's not as user friendly, but Spark AR is pretty user friendly especially if you've done visual programming, like node-based programming. Oh. I saw that one on TikTok. That's doing more like neural network stuff, which I'm curious what those sorts of filters or interactions are what they're gonna be looked back at as, what sort of feeling they'll have, because I'm starting to get better at recognizing neural network stuff, how it behaves, which is just sort of a matter of time. But like, you sort of learn how to recognize the newest tech and its shortcomings, whether or not that's computer generated imagery or if it's something like, I don't know, the sound of a cassette tape or something. And that has a different audio quality that you don't really recognize in the moment. You're just like, this sounds good compared to other stuff. Then you can come back to it. You're like, oh, that's what that actually sounded like. I think I'm gonna take a break for a second and just show the cross-hatching a little bit more up close so you can see some of that look to it. Then scan the other version of this. I was gonna rip this. Tape it again later. There we go. Now let's just back up a little bit. Just getting some of the cross-hatching so you can see it a little more up close. There it is, real up close. Okay. That's the sort of thing where it can generate faces and you might not be able to tell that it's not real, but maybe in 5 years you'll be like, this looks terrible. Because I have had that experience with various things that I'm like, this looks amazing. And then I come back and look at it and I'm like, that doesn't look amazing. In fact, that looks pretty bad. I think it's just learned understanding of how things are created and the shortcomings. of different methodology that you don't recognize until you become more versed in it. Let's get going. Image capture. Show these guys, grab this one. Going back and just looking at old anything, you're more likely to be like, I thought this, like, most recent thing that I did was I was talking with a friend about playing a PlayStation 2 for the first time and going to, it was a Babbage's, and playing some snowboarding game and being like just amazed at how good it looked. And I was talking on the phone with him, and then I went and while we were talking, I went and looked at video of that game, and it looked pretty bad. Did not look as good as I remembered it looking. Or like some Nintendo 64 games that I played when I was younger, specifically Ocarina of Time, and there's an area of the game where you can see, like, you're going across these natural bridges, and then there's a waterfall, and I remember it feeling like this giant space that could be explored, and the texture was lush and something I had never seen before. And then going back, because I played that game again on 3DS, and they remastered it for that. And it's not like, it's still a like 480 resolution to it, but it looks so much better than it looks much better than it did before, and it still looks much worse than I remembered it being. And so I try to be cognizant of those sorts of shortcomings in technology, because it comes, come on, don't do that. Where is it? Escape. It's also why you've got something like the first Jurassic Park still looks pretty good, and it's because there was an awareness of the limitations of the format. So distant things are the times where you use CGI, because broad strokes things look okay. But when you're dealing with like intimate situations where you have people very up close or directly interacting with things, then you start to have some more limitations in there. And not understanding the environment of things. Even with practical effects, you still have those sorts of shortcomings. Which is why things they have to be lit correctly in order to look good. Because I don't know if anyone has been to the Museum of the Moving Image, but that's out in Queens, and they have a number of props and stuff from different movies. And when you're looking at them in person, they look a lot worse, because they're not meant to be seen in person. They're meant to be seen on a screen that when they're lit correctly and all that sort of stuff. as far as Zelda games are concerned, the three-dimensional one that ages best is probably Wind Waker, and that's because it's more stylized. So I try to consider that sort of thing whenever I work on stuff. Oh, I gotta turn off both those. Okay, image. Things that embrace the limitations. Oh. I'm trying to grab this guy. That aren't attempting to break the mold tend to have a greater sense of longevity. Hello, Goyo Gomez. Stuff that ages well tends to be stuff that's aware. That knows the technical limitations and such. Things that aren't trying to make something that the technology can't handle, but that's also limiting in progress because you need people to be like, no, we can do this. Thanks, Elaine. Eileen, I forget. Also, I know you're French, so I'm probably saying that really not correctly. Yeah, there are different people who delay doing things based on technology not being there. James Cameron had that. I think Steven Spielberg directed AI, but conceptually Stanley Kubrick was interested in it, but didn't believe that stuff was where it needed to be. But James Cameron waited a long time for Avatar, sort of in that same vein. And I personally don't have the patience for that, but if you're working in something that's that ambitious and that expensive, and you have the experience and awareness of it, I could understand maybe, but I would not have the patience for that. I would work differently. That's just how I function. I think Kubrick was interested in directing it, but passed before everything got to where it was meant to be, or where he wanted it to be. You guys have any questions, concerns, comments, curiosities? Planning on being back tomorrow. I'm trying to do the G for the letter animation stuff. Somewhere I got a sketch of what I was thinking it might do. Maybe that's the best option. Anyway, spiel time. So, oh, hello, Zenshi. She. I've talked with someone who I was like, I don't know how to say Z's, or it's because I was trying to say dumplings, like pot stickers, fried dumplings. And the first time that I read it written in English alphabet, I said jowsies. And they were like, no, it's like jowds. And then they say that su, jowtsu, jowtsu, jowtsu. I'm bad at the accent because or tonal stuff with, at least with Chinese for Mandarin. Of tried a little bit here and there, and I probably just sound like I'm saying it super wrong. Anyway, spiel time. If you want to watch this or previous process videos, live streams, you can go to YouTube, search TraceLoops, and all of these should pop up. And you can follow me there if you want updates for when they're coming up, but they mostly get posted like late afternoon, early evening on New York time. If you want to see the process of this sped up, I'll put that up here on Instagram in a minute. And also on TikTok. If you want to follow me on TikTok, same username, TraceLoops. It's essentially the same content, just no stills. And then if you want to buy this or other designs on shirts, you can go to traceloops.com/store and purchase shirts there. If you live outside of the US, you can direct message me here on Instagram, or you can email me, traceloops@traceloops.com, and I can work with you to figure out the price of what you want to purchase, and then the actual purchase of the products. Just so you're generally aware, typically the price goes up about $5 for most of the t-shirts, and then it can go up $15 to $30 for other items if they are if I'm shipping them for international shipping. I've mostly shipped to Europe, so I'm not 100% sure what the shipping would look like if you are outside of the United States or Europe. As far as personally shipping, I've shipped a few other things to South America, but most of the shirts are about $5 more. And I'll plan on being back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which is the same as Eastern Standard Time. Eastern Daylight Time means that you have daylight savings time, and I didn't know that difference until recently. Hello, Rosman. You're catching me at the tail end of stuff. But if you want to watch, I could ship to Africa. I don't know what the price change would be. I don't think that there are many places that I can't ship, but there are a few places that the USPS won't deliver to. I haven't shipped to Africa, so I'm not sure what the cost, but it would probably be around something like $28 US. I like leaving in the paper texture in there, and because it's just a still, I just filled it in digitally, which isn't my preferred thing, but it's a lot faster when there are so many little pieces of stuff. I'll open the floor again, as it always is, for questions. If I missed your question at some point during the stream, or you just have one that you want to throw out there, feel free to do so. You can also post them midstream while I'm working. I'm just less likely to answer them just because I don't see them because I'm working. But it's not because I don't want to answer them, or I won't. It's just sometimes I miss them. Also, you can direct message me here on Instagram for questions, concerns, comments, stuff like that, or email traceloops@traceloops.com. So give like 30 seconds saying that out loud because there's a delay. How does it look like if I invert the colors? I can show you. Let me change the contrast here. It looks okay, but it doesn't look like what I want it to look like. It's something that I would change the... can I duplicate this? Copy. Paste, duplicate. Change this guy out for inverted. There you go. That's what it looks like inverted. but it's the sort of thing where there's elements of it that, like, if it was just the figures, it would be something different. But because it's outlines as well as lips and sort of implied shadows and stuff like that, I would want to mess with it a bit. Also, I'm less inclined to have anything that treats that has this sort of contrast between general skin tone and, well, I didn't do a direct inversion. I got rid of the paper texture just because it's more okay visually to have like a little bit of, I'll show you with the paper texture, but the contrast is different because black is a bit stronger of a, one second, let's do a paste duplicate and browse invert to. So there's some paper texture, but the contrast is different. The inverting paper texture doesn't, I don't like the inverted texture as much because it just looks sort of grayed out. It doesn't have the same feeling. Like paper, you can think about being a little bit gray, but if you're taking the black and inverting it, it just sort of looks washed out a bit more, which is why I increase that contrast. I have another Twizzler. Which the white is pretty gray as well. But the relationship is different. If you have black that has a little bit of white in it, it looks weirder than if you have a white that's got a little bit of gray in it. What is this great inversion? If you're using white as the positive, as the mass, you have to treat it differently. Or at least I prefer to treat it differently. I think it probably also has to do with how the lighter you have something on a screen, the brighter. I am wearing this bracelet. Turn this guy off. It's hard to see here. It's a cuff that I etched. That guy. This one. Let's see what this looks like under the. Oh yeah, this isn't connected anymore. 1 second. My USB hub only has. Is it going to show? I don't think it will. Oh, here it is. Yeah, look at that green. Metals are very hard to photograph. This harsh light also is not flattering to the color of it. You can see where it's more, there's more sort of polish just by wearing it at the raised bits, and then it wears away. It's greenish because it's oxidized copper. Greenish, bluish color is what copper takes on when exposed to oxygen and wear and tear. You can see a little bit of that lip that's there. Then on the anterior you got a little bit of discoloration, but not nearly as much. Also, the color of that isn't super accurate. This one I did a direct drawing. I think this one was using nail polish. Hello to Wilkes. So for this, what I did with it was I painted on the design, taped off the back. I think this one, yeah, this one was electric. This one was definitely electric etch. And then using direct current, put the, I forget if the negative or positive lead goes on. I think it's a positive. Then you put the positive lead on the thing and you submerge it into some sort of bath. I think this one was a saltwater etching. So you put salt in water, and you can either have two separate pieces of conductive metal, or you can have it as some sort of container that's like stainless steel or something. And you clip using direct current. I believe the positive one goes on to what you want to etch, and then the negative onto the object that is whatever, scrap metal or something. And then where it's exposed, it'll pull away the copper from that, and then where it's covered, it leaves it more intact. You can get a moderate etch with it if you want to just have a textural sort of etch design that isn't actually physically separated from the other portion of the metal that you're etching. You can do it for a much shorter period of time. You can also get different textures to the etched out metal depending on how high of a current that you're putting through it, stuff like that. There's a bunch of different variables. I have used ferric chloride in the past, but you have to be careful with disposal. One reason being that it'll eat at copper in pipes. So I just have some ferric chloride that's in, I just poured it back into the container. It works pretty well. That also has a different sort of, it's a little harder to replicate because as you use a ferric chloride, it gets less effective. And if you're using something like this one was I think a saltwater etch using electricity. It's a little bit more predictable. It's also cheaper to purchase the materials because it's just salt. But you can also buy different salts that I forget what it is. It's some sort of blue thing, so I think it has copper in it. I think it's some sort of copper compound that dissolves in water, and that you can just use indefinitely depending on how much it dries out. But so for that, what you deal with, the variation on it is more surface area, the concentration of the salt that you've mixed into the water, type of water, because if you have it distilled, it'll behave differently. And then how much surface area you have on both the object you're etching and the thing that's receiving the etching. Then the amount of current that you're putting through. You'll get a smoother etch if you have a lower current and have it submerged for a longer period of time, but it'll work much slower, and you can get more sort of pitted stuff if you have a higher current. I don't really sell stickers. I've sold some like thermal printed ones in the past because I did those for animations, but I hesitate to sell those in general just because people have an expectation for how long a sticker will last, and those thermal printed ones aren't that great. They fade pretty quickly. It's like a receipt paper. It's practical for what I was doing, where I was printing it and then putting it up places, taking a photograph and compiling them all together. All right. Have a good time doing whatever you're doing, Zenshi. You can use copper plates to make prints. That's copper sheets is what historically a lot of people use for doing etching prints. But for that, what you do is you take a sheet of copper that's usually a little bit thicker. Then you have to soften the edges of it using a file of some kind, because you're eventually putting it through a decent amount of pressure against some fronts of it. All right, have a go to sleep. But for doing etches for printmaking, what you'll do is you will cover the copper plate with beeswax. Usually that's darkened so you can better see what it is, and then you take some sort of pointed tool, I don't know what they're called, and you scratch away where you want to print things, and you just pull away the beeswax, and then you put it into some sort of acid that will etch away the exposed copper, but you don't do it super deep, you just do it moderately, and then you take off the beeswax and you have a copper plate that what you want to have as a printmaking thing is etched away, and then you rub ink into it, and then you put it through a printing press with paper. And why you have to clear off the edges is because you have to soak the paper a little bit to make it softer and more expanded. You soak it in some water so that it's larger in size, and when you put pressure into it, it pushes into those crevices, the small etches that you've made into the material, into the copper, and it'll pick up more of that. And if you have sharp edges to your copper, like you just cut it using shears or something like that, you have pretty sharp edges, and that can push either into the paper and tear it, or more expensively, it can push into the felts, the large sheets of fabric that you have on either side to hold things together and add added pressure without damaging the items. But most of the time that's done with acid rather than electric etching. I don't know why, if it's just historical refinement of the process, or if it's more predictable, or what, I don't know. But you can use etching for copper prints. I've not really done it. I just know the steps to it. It's one of those things that can get expensive. Pretty much all printmaking, it's pretty expensive. The materials have to be pretty prepared. Screen printing isn't so expensive. There's a bit of upstart, and depending on what method, it can get costly, but I have done rubbings of some of the etches that I've done. Like, I'm doing now. Turn this bad boy off again. Can't use that. Come on. Can I get this without picking up? I don't think so. I'm eating Twizzlers. You might be able to do a basic thing, but if you have a CNC router for making, I'm guessing for making circuit boards, I don't know how that deals with a thicker piece of copper. Whether or not the tools are meant for that. So I would just maybe try and look up to see. Maybe it's perfectly fine, but just because it would be going through a harsher material. I'm not holding it super well. It's kind of hard to see there, but let's see if I can. Let's refocus this. Just for a moment. That's just a rubbing. Snag is a Twizzler. I think I said that. You could possibly do that, and you could obviously make a rubbing pretty easily. Graphite rubbing. A circuit board or something like that. There's undoubtedly people who have tried using a CNC thing for creating a printmaking something or other. You could also, depending on how fine it is, you could probably get away with not actually digging that deep into it, because actual like copper plate etches are pretty just enough to like pick up the ink. It's not something where, like, when you think about printmaking and stuff like that, you're usually thinking about the raised section as being what's doing the printing, which would be the case for woodblock and stuff like that, but it's actually the inverse for copper plate, for copper printing, for etches, because you rub in the ink and then you sort of like generally wipe off most of the stuff that's on the surface, the flat surface level, and that's why you have to wet the paper, is because it has to push into it a little bit to pick up. Also why, if you are looking at etchings as prints, a lot of the time there's sort of a border around the edge that's like a physical embossment. That's because it's being pushed up against it. Well, it's got a little bit of moisture in it, and that reshapes the paper a bit. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I'm going to do the spiel again because I talked for like 20-30 minutes. You can watch this and other live streams as recordings on YouTube, which you can go there and search TraceLoops, and you should have 40 plus by now. 60? I don't know. How many has it been? About 2 months, so probably about 50. Are there 50? I'm not sure. Anyway, and if you want to buy a shirt with this design or other designs, you can go to traceloops.com/store. If you live outside of the US and you want to purchase something from said store, you can do so by contacting me directly, either by direct message here on Instagram, DM me, or whatever other means you may have to contact me. And the best means of that is email, traceloops@traceloops.com. If you want to follow me on TikTok, you can do that. Same username, handle bit, TraceLoops. It's essentially the same content, so if you're looking for new stuff, it might be a different song that I post with it, but it's the same content. Thank you, Antisocial Singularity, for saying that you love Shamika. You can watch that video and the process video. Those are both on YouTube. Searching for Fiona Apple Shamika. Those will pop up. I think that's pretty much it. YouTube, TraceLoops. Email, traceloops@traceloops.com. Store is traceloops.com/store. And all that bit. thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed your Sunday as well, Reno, and good luck with testing out using the CNC machine for artistic endeavors. I'm guessing that you can find some people who have attempted something similar and can give you feedback on that. Thanks, Antisocial Singularity. And thanks, Kay. Hope that your shirts are treating you well, the ones that you ordered, and that I don't think there's any more wildfire stuff happening. But if you're in LA area, just California's not doing so hot with COVID stuff. But I don't know anywhere in the US that's just doing amazing. So stay safe, and I'll be back tomorrow. Thank you all for watching.